Before drones filled the sky, before GPS and remote controls made unmanned flight ordinary, someone created this. A massive balloon, carrying a bomb the size of a man, drifting silently through the air like a ghost. This wasn't a weather experiment. It wasn't surveillance. It was a weapon designed to fly itself. No engines, no pilot, no radio signals, just wind, physics, and a terrifyingly simple idea. Let the atmosphere deliver the bomb for you. What you're looking at is one of the earliest proto-drones ever deployed. A DIY autonomous bomb system, built decades before the word drone even existed. And almost nobody today knows this story. Let me show you how it worked and why armies feared it. If you're into forgotten military inventions, the kind that feel almost impossible for their time, make sure you're subscribed. Because what you're about to see isn't just a strange weapon, it's a chapter of warfare history that most documentaries skip entirely. Long before any nation had drones, long before computers could guide missiles, armies faced a brutal problem. How do you strike a distant target without sacrificing pilots? Air combat was deadly, unpredictable, and brutally inefficient. Every mission meant risking a trained crew, a machine worth a fortune, and often losing both. So, inventors searched for alternatives. They experimented with early autopilots, crude radio controls, even mechanical brains. But none of these ideas were cheap. None were simple. Until someone realized a radical truth. The sky already has a delivery system. All you need is a balloon. And that single idea, launching bombs carried by the wind, would become the earliest form of autonomous warfare. What these engineers created looked almost ridiculous, until you realized what it could do. Imagine a bomb, not dropped from a plane, not fired from a cannon, but carried by the wind itself. They attached an explosive payload to a massive balloon made of layered paper, rubberized fabric, or even lightweight silk. Inside the rig, they added a set of simple yet ingenious devices. Barometric regulators that sensed altitude, timers that released sandbags to stay airborne longer, and finally, a mechanical trigger that armed the payload once the balloon reached its destination zone. No electronics, no engines, nothing to jam or intercept. This was autonomous warfare in its most primitive and surprisingly effective form. These balloons could climb into powerful high-altitude winds, travel hundreds, sometimes thousands of kilometers, and descend over enemy territory with no human guiding them. And here's the incredible part. The concept worked. But the engineers soon discovered a problem, one they couldn't solve with any amount of clever mechanics. A flaw that almost stopped the entire program. And it wasn't the bomb. It was the sky itself. Once these balloon bombs were launched, there was no turning back. Crews would release them in silence, sometimes under the cover of night, watching as the massive envelope lifted off the ground, carrying its deadly cargo upward into the darkness. From that point on, the weapon was completely alone. No signal, no adjustments, no guidance. Just a slow ascent into the upper atmosphere, riding the violent, unpredictable jet stream toward enemy territory. And what happened next was chaos. Some balloons drifted hundreds of kilometers off course. Some circled back and crashed near the launch sites. Others vanished over the ocean without a trace. But a few, just a few, reached their targets. They came down silently, with no engines to warn anyone, no pilot to spot. Villagers found strange debris in fields. Soldiers reported unexplained fires. In one case, a balloon descended deep inside foreign territory and detonated in a remote forest. The blast so unexpected that investigators initially thought it was a meteorite impact. newspapers from the era described the arrivals as mysterious airborne devices and unexplained explosions falling from the sky. And that was exactly the problem. Nobody could predict where these things would land, not even the people who launched them. For military planners, this unpredictability was both an advantage and a nightmare. And soon, the sky itself became the greatest threat to the entire project. For all its ingenuity, the system had one fatal flaw. Not the bomb, not the mechanism, not even the balloon. The real enemy was the atmosphere itself. High-altitude winds are powerful, but they're also chaotic. A shift of just a few kilometers per hour could send a balloon hundreds of kilometers off its intended course. Temperature changes cause the balloons to sink too early or climb too high. Barometric regulators jammed in cold weather. Mechanical timers froze or misfired. Some balloons exploded prematurely as gas expanded at altitude. Others simply tore apart in storms or vanished into jet streams that carried them far beyond any military use. The sky was impossible to predict and impossible to control. And for military planners, this unpredictability wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous. A weapon you cannot steer is a weapon that can just as easily drift back toward your own cities, your own soldiers, your own supply lines. That fear, the fear of the bomb coming home, forced commanders to rethink the entire project. But even as the balloon program faltered, something remarkable happened. Engineers realized that the idea itself, an unmanned, self-delivering weapon, was too important to abandon, and they began to wonder, if the sky can't guide it, what if we build something that can? Even though the balloon bomb program struggled, it didn't disappear. The idea, an unmanned weapon that guides itself, was too powerful to ignore. Engineers realized that if wind couldn't provide accuracy, machines could. And so, the same principles used in those drifting balloons became the foundation for something far more advanced. The barometric switches evolved into early altitude controls. The mechanical timers evolved into primitive flight computers. And the simple idea of a weapon delivering itself became the first step toward cruise missiles. By the mid-20th century, nations around the world were building guided weapons with gyroscopes, radio control, and eventually digital navigation. And today, every drone, every UAV, every autonomous quadcopter carries the DNA of those early experiments. The same dream, a machine that flies itself. The same problem, how to control it. But unlike those early balloon bombs, modern drones can see, think, adjust, navigate, avoid obstacles, and hit their targets with extreme precision. Still, it all started with something incredibly simple: a balloon, a bomb, and the belief that the sky could be used as a delivery system. And that's why these forgotten inventions matter. They weren't just weapons. They were the first autonomous aircraft. From drifting balloons to GPS-guided drones, the idea never changed. A weapon, or a machine, that can fly itself. The technology evolved, the accuracy improved, but the roots go all the way back to these strange, silent balloon bombs, drifting across the sky with nothing but wind to guide them. If you want to uncover more forgotten inventions like this, the ideas that shaped modern drones, missiles, and unmanned flight, make sure you're subscribed. And tell me in the comments, which early proto-drone should we cover next? Because sometimes, the past flies closer to the future than we think.